since you mentioned zombies. San Francisco Bay Area, we'll finish on this because I'm sweating my ass off. We made a mistake. San Francisco restaurant apologizes after hosting an anti-trans event, whatever that means. Let's watch the local news.
And they just didn't know. That from the owner of a restaurant that held a private event for the San Francisco Republican Party. An undercover reporter in attendance called it an anti-trans dinner. NBC Bears Gia Van
and
has
you
more.
printed it in the headline.
The entrance to American Bites in North Beach is tucked away from the street. It's the place where a Chronicle opinion reporter infiltrated an event last week put on by the local GOP group, calling it a secretive anti-trans dinner, listing many instances of transphobic content they endured. The restaurant has been fielding mostly angry callers since the article published Thursday and posted an apology shortly after.
Okay, before we continue, you infiltrated the restaurant. There was anti-trans things said. It's 2023. You have a phone. Is there photo, video, or audio evidence? What are they going to... Is there, Eric, or do you know already if it's coming?
I actually watched another report on this, and I did not see any. And I feel like if there were, even the other news station would have showed us the evidence.
I was going to go 65% no.
Made a mistake, and I sincerely apologize.
Oh, I
That's
see.
American
For
Bites
what?
owner Mike Ceremi. He said a regular at their other
coward.
restaurant approached them and wanted to host a Republican fundraiser that would include a short documentary. He says when the group of about 100 arrived with parents and children too, he didn't know it would spiral into what it did.
As the night went on, there were some speakers, and I think they had some kind of a, fringe point of view. I wish we had known this was the subject. We would have never agreed, to have that.
You can't talk about
event
that
in our
here.
place.
Are you saying that you support trans rights?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm from the city. We love trans, gay, LGBT community, straight, everyone. It's just. I mean, that's what's beautiful about San Francisco is about, inclusion.
This is like, look at the person we're about to hear from, but this is like when Principal Skinner is being held at gunpoint at the door. It was a boating accident I was involved in. Like off screen to that guy's right, there was a gun held to his head. I love everybody. LGBT, I don't even know what this is. But yes, let's see. We've still got, I'm guessing this is the journalist, the they, them. Let's see if they've got evidence.
King Lotus Boy identifies as trans, non-binary, and polyam. They say there's no question what holding an event put on by Republicans would mean.
Any fundraising efforts that is going towards the GOP.
We need a speaker to speak on this news story. We need someone legitimate. We are calling on non-professional wrestler nor rap artist named King Lotus Boy. The drag artist will give us a non-biased opinion on this instead of the journalist who went there or what. This is absolutely insane. And the fact that a person had this person named King Lotus Boy on their show and doesn't see that this is insane means you should quit your job. Shout out Tim Pool. Quit your job. This is not for you. If what if I was doing an interview about a pro-trans, one of these trans events with drag queens that they sexualize children and get them to put dollar bills in them and whatnot. What if I brought on a guy who he's not a rapper, he's not a professional wrestler, he just goes in his day-to-day life as I hate trans people, and you just put that guy on the screen like, I hate trans people.tm. Seems like he's got some great opinions on this subject. He's really he's really bringing a lot of fair and unbiased points to this report. How could anyone not take this seriously? San Francisco, Eric, I'm glad you don't live there anymore.
Dude, it's through the roof. And you notice the t-shirt there, right?
Drug users deserve what to
live, I believe, is the quote. Let's finish the last couple seconds and see what Zimzer has to say.
Is fundraising hatred and is fundraising violence towards queer and trans people, full stop. Considering that
with what
the
evidence?
Majority, almost probably all of the bills that have been anti-trans, targeting trans youth and drag artists have been Republican-led.
Right now, Yelp has temporarily blocked reviews for American Bites as it monitors the fallout, but the path forward is clear for the owners.
We're going to change our policy as far as booking events. We're going to be more diligent in, just knowing who we work with.
We're going to start having a ideological litmus test for who gets to book a restaurant with no evidence that these people said anything. All he said is fringe views. He couldn't even describe one. The report didn't describe one. What's this girl's name? This girl whose face is currently falling off right now. This girl's face is barely on. It's sliding off of her face.
We did reach out to the local SFGOP.
The yellowness of her face is sliding off. Gia Vang. This is one of the worst reports I've ever seen in my life.
Heard back.
And I'm sure if I watched San Francisco news more often, I would be more impressed with how bad it is.
We reached out to the local GOP and they haven't replied. Yeah, you probably gave them 15 minutes, right? Like
we reached out to the local person who says I hate Republicans, and they say that they think that this was possibly an ancient alien that helped build the pyramid. Was it ancient aliens that helped build the pyramids? It could have been, yes.
Well, this so that was, what was that, NBC or ABC? I forget, but you know, I kind of get them confused because I watched a report from another station that was spearheaded by another guy who, I mean, they're not even trying, right? So the news reporter, like that one, she's not as bad as the guy from the other station who is clearly a flaming homosexual, right? He's not going to be able to shoot it straight down the middle, right? No pun intended. But it's very obvious where his allegiance lies. And the great irony of this is that if somebody were to try to stop a drag show from happening, they would be labeled as all the worst names in the book. But if some regular people are having a dinner that you infiltrated and you don't even have any evidence, that you can look through hours of footage of weirdo drag queens dancing for little kids, right? And if you even show up to that with a Bible or with a sign, you will be deemed the worst bigot in the world. But if somebody has a dinner that they didn't even invite you to, you infiltrate it while they were having a discussion, and now you want to shut them down, and you are strong enough, you are marginalized enough that you trick the owner of the business into saying, I'm sorry, we won't do it again, and you don't even have proof. So we can have our event, and we're going to shove it down the throat of your kids, literally and physically, but you are not going to have one event that's going to discuss what we just did. It's all absolutely ridiculous. And while this is happening, the San Francisco news media will continue to obviously lie, you know, be deceitful, obfuscate, and never let the truth get out, even with the headlines. It's completely despicable.
Well, I don't know how you could just, like, if you call yourself some sort of journalist and you're not willing to say that, like, I'm 100% biased against the other side, how are you just going to take this person's word for it that you don't even put on screen? Like, I don't believe that was the person who said they infiltrated the event. They'd be pretty well spotted pretty easily. King Lotus Boy. Shout out Lotus Boy.
And the drug shirt.
You're going to air this? Yeah, you're going to air this and be like, well, we don't have any evidence of what they said, but we'll just take your opinion for it that it was transphobic. It's 1953. Yes. We only had a notepad and a press card in our cap.
Yes, exactly. And because they know, to bring it full circle here, that the only criteria for something to being true is just for them to say it. Just like with the city bike lady. All we had to do is say she's a racist, and now it's absolutely true. And I know that this is kind of petty and maybe some people won't like it, but I don't care what they think. Is that for this person to go on television wearing a shirt that says drug users deserve to live, don't you think that's a little telling, right? Like, we're getting behind people so great. So we don't care about the regular residents. We don't care about their quality of life, but the needles and the poop and the tents on the street, those should stay. And that's the activist point of view. Think about the actual junkie, right? Like, do we think for one split second that a real San Francisco junkie is going to spare that little they them from a weirdo attack or a tongue lashing, or you know what I mean?
Well, it's like you always say, Eric, sorry to interrupt, but like you always say, it's always life or death. This person wants to pretend that other people, it says they deserve to live. Is anybody saying let's kill the homeless people? No, they're not. And this person also lives in California, where they get all their people elected that they want, in San Francisco, where they have every policy that they want, and it still fails. And you're just go, it must be something else that's happening. Yeah. It must be the Republicans in San Francisco that had a dinner, and I can't prove anything.
Turn it up, Jordan.